Brock Purdy, second year in the league, first Super Bowl appearance, while Mahomes, fourth Super Bowl appearance in 5 years. He's 2-1 in the Super Bowl. It is now time to make our Super Bowl predictions. Each of these teams have come a very, very far way. We saw Brock Purdy have a little bit of a rough patch middle of the year, and in the playoffs, the 49ers have not looked the best. The Lions have outplayed them in the first half, and the Packers outplayed them in basically all up until one drive, which was the last drive where Purdy drove down and scored in order to defeat the Green Bay Packers, and then picked off Jordan Love to seal that game. While Mahomes, people counted the Chiefs out the entire year, including us, who thought they could be one and done, although when we heard they were going to play Miami, we assumed that maybe after they'd be done, but they made the Super Bowl again. So both these teams have come a very, very long way. Let's start with this. In order for the Chiefs to win, we're not going to make our picks just right now. In order for the Chiefs to win, what do they need to do to stop the 49ers from somehow taking a lead in this game and sealing it and giving Purdy the win? What do the Chiefs have to do?
The Chiefs have to disrupt Brock Purdy. That's the number one thing that will help them go on to victory. And by doing that, they've got to pressure the pocket. And when Brock Purdy is pressured in the pocket, particularly when you get to his front foot, he throws the ball inaccurately. And so that's what the Chiefs also, in addition to getting in the pocket and pressuring Brock Purdy's front foot, they got to put their hands up. Because if they get their hands up, that's an issue for Brock Purdy as well. So I think that's the number one thing they got to do. They got to disrupt Purdy. Keep him out of a rhythm, and I think that will play well for them. That's the number one thing.
Okay. So for me, when it comes to how the Chiefs could win,
that's on defense. I didn't get to the offensive side.
So you want to do the offense? Or?
Sure.
Yeah,
okay.
Go to the offense.
On offense, Mahomes. Mahomes to Kelsey.
As simple as that, huh?
It's as simple as that. If Mahomes has the kind of game that he's had every game in the playoffs so far this year, then I see the Chiefs being very hard to beat. He's a player that can improvise. He can take a play that looks like it's going nowhere and broken, and he's going to get sacked, and somehow he slips away, scrambles around, looks downfield, sees the open receiver, hits them, or takes off running and picks up the first down. I just see he's the key on offense for sure. And they're going to have something special for Kelsey. As Belichick always did, my Patriots sweatshirt here, take away the team's best option, right? Well, I think the best option is Kelsey. So they have to find a way to take him out of the game, which some teams were able to do this past year. There were some games where you didn't hear much from Kelsey. So it is possible to do it. Whether the 49ers can do it or not remains to be seen. So
for me, first of all, I'm going to give props to the Chiefs for getting this far. We really thought with the drop issues, Kadarius Toney issues, spotty run game, although I think Pacheco had a good year overall, they haven't looked like the same team. The defense has been the main story for the Chiefs, and that's where it starts off for me. So the first thing would be, and I agree with you, is the pass rush needs to get to Brock Purdy. We saw what that pass rush did against Lamar Jackson. They blitzed him 43% of the time. And Lamar Jackson was looking, couldn't find an open guy. Instead of taking off, he stayed in the pocket. So if you can somehow pressure Brock Purdy, which then leads to Brock Purdy making mistakes, and especially causing mistakes in crucial areas like in their own territory, which gives you less than half a field to go out and score a touchdown or at least a field goal, or in the red zone, which he did against the Ravens in the regular season, where Purdy was throwing picks every which way through 4 in the game, especially the first one, when they were driving, he threw it in the red zone. If you could do that, that's easy points for the Chiefs. And I think Mahomes is one of those quarterbacks where if his defense turns the ball over, oh yeah, Mahomes is going to score at least a touchdown on that. Those are not going to go, empty turnovers there. He's going to go up and put out some points. What's a little bit shocking and what I think the Chiefs need to capitalize on is the fact that this 49ers defense, we saw in 2 playoff games this season that they can get got, and especially running the football. We saw David Montgomery, even Jamison Williams, as well as Jahmyr Gibbs, especially in that first half. Explosive runs, getting the first downs. I think Jamison Williams had a 43-yard touchdown run. He was fumbling all the way to the end zone. Couldn't bring him down. And I think that's where the Chiefs need to start with. You got to run the offense through Pacheco. You control the clock, you control how many first downs you get, and especially you keep Brock Purdy and this dynamic offense that the 49ers have off the field. They have much more talent on the offensive side than they do the defensive side. It's close, but I think the 49ers are much better offensively with talent than they are defensively. So if you keep that offense off the field with Pacheco controlling the clock, and then you could just dink and dunk with Mahomes to Kelsey over again, like you said, I think the Chiefs are going to win this game pretty handily. What also needs to happen is something that has been happening in the playoffs for Mahomes for about 3 years now, 2 years. It's the lack of turnovers in the playoffs. The last time Mahomes threw an interception in the playoffs was the horrible game against Cincinnati where they lost 24-27 in I believe it was the AFC Championship game, where the last throw we saw was a Hail Mary to the left side to Tyreek Hill, which I think it was Jesse Bates who picked it off in overtime against the Cincinnati Bengals, which then they moved on to the Super Bowl and lost. But Mahomes hasn't been turning the ball over. So if he continues to play efficient football without any turnovers, that's how the Chiefs could win. And not only that, the last point I'm going to make about how the Chiefs could win is the fact that they got hot at exactly the right time. We thought on the show, and many other people thought, that this was not a Super Bowl roster, especially with a significant deficit in the wide receiver position, whether it be drops, not great route runners, just bad play overall, Mahomes not trusting his guys, interceptions. The one part that people were majorly concerned about was the wide receiver core, amongst also the offensive line wasn't all that great this year, especially with Juwan Taylor and Donovan Smith as your offensive tackles. But once it hit playoff time, you froze the Dolphins, then you beat the Bills as you normally do in the playoffs, and then you shocked the world by stopping Lamar Jackson, the MVP Lamar Jackson, and the defense stepped up by only allowing them to 10 points and also a turnover. So, or I think it was actually 3 turnovers if I'm not mistaken. So, if the Chiefs can simply just play their game the way they've been playing it in the postseason when they got hot, Kelsey looks like he did last year and the years prior. This entire season you look down, but if the Chiefs just play their style of football, there's a very, very good chance they could win. Now let's go with the 49ers side of the ball. What can the 49ers do to stop the Chiefs and Mahomes from getting their 4th Super Bowl in 5 years?
They have to play better defense. They have to have their best defensive game of the year, really, I think. I think the Chiefs have been playing better defense than the 49ers recently, particularly in the playoffs. Look how many points the 49ers have given up to teams that they're much better than, really, right? I mean, the 49ers are a better team than Green Bay. The 49ers are a better team than the Lions. To beat the Packers, it came down to a final drive by the Packers with an interception, right? With less than a minute left. The Packers, all they had to do was get a field goal. They could have sent it into overtime. The 49ers are a better team than the Packers. To have that game that close was a little bit of a surprise to people. The Lions game, any other game, 24-7, except maybe the Patriots Atlanta Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Is going to wind up with the 49ers losing that game. The Lions, I'm sure they're still thinking about that, and I'm sure Dan Gamble is thinking about that as well.
Absolutely.
Should never have happened. The Lions should have been in the Super Bowl here. So I think the 49ers, to beat the Chiefs, have got to control Mahomes, which I don't think they'll be able to do. They have to take away his number one option, which is Kelsey, which I think they have a chance to do. I think that they've got to keep Mahomes off the field. So I think the best way to do that is on offense, long, sustained drives with the running game. And they should be able to have some success there because they have the best offensive player in the league in CMC. And they have actually 2 players that are positionless. CMC can play wide receiver. He can play running back. They have Debo, who can do either running back or wide receiver, right? So they've got to control the offensive tempo of the game, get into a rhythm, have long, sustained drives to keep Mahomes off the field. And when they get down in the red zone, they got to score a touchdown. It can't be just field goals if they want to win.
So
that's my analysis, Nate.
So that's how the 49ers could win.
That's how the 49ers could win.
I would say for the 49ers to win, and if we take a look at all their losses so far, it's been Brock Purdy turning the ball over. And that's why I said the Chiefs, if they have an opportunity, you got to force Purdy into some turnovers. And not only that, you have to get into his head. Now, he threw a horrible interception against the Lions, but the Lions' defense we knew was inferior. Now, the way the game turned out, that Darnell Savage interception against the Packers, that would have been pick sixth. I think the Packers would have won that game because the entire game, Purdy was not playing well. The Lions' defense could get got, while the Packers' defense had a little bit more success throughout the year. And especially in that game, the way that game was looking out to be with, a little bit of a mist that really hurt Purdy throwing the football, the way that game turned out to be, that if that was pick sixth and he had that other interception that was like thrown into triple coverage, the Packers probably would have won that game. I think you need to get into his head. And for the 49ers to win this game, they need to play controlled football. They have the offensive player of the year in Christian McCaffrey, which it's crazily enough, if you think about it, I have the number here. And we talked about who deserves to be the MVP. Well, the Associated Press voters spoke. And while Lamar Jackson did win MVP, Christian McCaffrey got more second-place votes for the MVP than Brock Purdy got second and third place combined. So the voters knew who was the more valuable player on that team, like I've been speaking. And Christian McCaffrey will be the X factor in this game if the 49ers are willing to, if they're willing to, come out and Brock Purdy's going to hoist the trophy. And what I think may happen is if Christian McCaffrey has the same game he's been having throughout the season, I think he has a really good shot at winning Super Bowl MVP. So if there are any prop bets on Super Bowl MVP, I would pick Kelsey and I'd pick CMC to win it. I wouldn't pick Purdy, maybe Mahomes. If the Chiefs win, it would be Mahomes and Kelsey. If the 49ers win it, I think CMC would be the first option because the way that he's been playing, you got to think about giving it to a position player, which hasn't happened in a very, very long time.
21 touchdowns this year.
It was incredible. Yeah. He had 17 straight games of scoring.
I think he had 2,000 yards of total offense, right?
I think he had well over 2,000 yards of offense. So for me, it's Christian McCaffrey has to be the X factor, and I agree with you. The defense. Mahomes, like I said, Mahomes hasn't thrown an interception in a game since the AFC Championship game against the Cincinnati Bengals back in January 30th of 2022. So it's been 2 years since he threw a playoff interception. You got to get him bad. And this is where it's very, very fascinating. And these are some of the numbers here that I have. And this is, actually, CMC and making Mahomes turn over the ball. Those are the only two things that I think is going to be important here. Make Mahomes uncomfortable. Because what we've seen is he likes to dance around the pocket when the pocket he thinks is breaking down. You got to put a spy on him. You got to put a spy, whether that's Dre Greenlaw, whether that's Burks. I think Fred Warner needs to cover Travis Kelce. You need a big guy who could just stay on him. Levante David did a pretty good job in the Bucs. Now I understand the offensive line for the Chiefs was decimated, but while Kelce did have, I think, 133 yards, it was ineffective, completely ineffective. I think you need a big body on Kelce, up on the line, try to press him, and don't let him try your best, not to hold their illegal contact, but make him ineffective, which is incredibly difficult, and we've really never seen Kelce be ineffective. Mm-hmm. So my main thing would be on offense, feed CMC. Feed him the ball. We're talking like 25 carries or at least 25 touches with the football. He needs to be your best guy. Mm-hmm. Now, screw the injury history. Lay it out on the line right here.
This is it.
This is literally the end of the season. Bowl. Then you have a number of months off where you can relax and enjoy, off-season life. And besides, you get a Super Bowl ring to go along with it.
Do you think CMC might throw a pass in this game?
There's a prop bet for over 2.5 players on the ball. So anyone else but the quarterback, and I think that's plus 700. I think.
Oh yeah.
Or it might be plus 170. I don't know the exact number, but it wouldn't surprise me. So I think it's time to get into our picks.
Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Before we get into our picks, do you think it will feel like an upset if the Chiefs win the game?
No, because I think they should be favored just based on the run they had. And the way if we honestly take a look at how they got here in the playoffs alone, I think really the Chiefs deserve to be favored by maybe 1.5 points or maybe -1 like the Eagles were last year.
But how about the fact that Joe Thuney's not going to play? Do you think that's a fact?
That definitely hurts the Chiefs. I think if Joe Thuney was in and, Kelsey didn't have the regular season he had and the receivers weren't absolute garbage, I'd say the Chiefs probably could be favored by 2.
Yeah.
2 or 1.5. So yeah, let's get into the picks.
Okay.
So you're gonna start us off here. So let's bring up the premier graphic again. Super Bowl 58, Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas, Nevada. Chiefs, 49ers for you. Who takes home the Lombardi Trophy? The San Francisco 49ers or the Kansas City Chiefs?
When it's a Super Bowl, the heart of the player, the soul of the team make all the difference in the world. The team that's best prepared, the team that has the experience, that's been there before, has the edge. I'm picking the Chiefs 24-21.
This is massive. Massive for you. So you got the Chiefs. Mahomes gets his third Lombardi Trophy in 4 tries. Wow. Okay. Now I'm gonna do a little something here. I'm gonna be honest, and I think we all need to be honest. You're always honest, but there's one graphic here, or 2 graphics here that I think is very, very fascinating to look at, because while we all understand Mahomes is great, and I think we have to understand Mahomes is great, and everyone knows Mahomes is great, he's in the GOAT conversation, we have to take a look at this graphic here. In the playoffs, Mahomes is phenomenal. 12-2 record. This is excluding Super Bowls. 12-2 record. 68% completion percentage. If you round it up, it's 69% completion percentage. 311.2 yards. 34 touchdowns. 3 picks. 8 yards an attempt. And a pass rating of 104.2. But what's shocking is when the lights are absolutely the brightest, when it's at the peak of the NFL season, Super Bowl Sunday, Mahomes, we have to be honest here, has come up pretty small. 2-1 record. A 64% completion percentage. That's a drop off of 4%. 246 passing yards a game. That's basically 50 yards. Or no, wait, that's 70-yard drop off. 30. You have 5 touchdowns to 4 picks. Sample size is a little bit smaller, but the touchdown to interception ratio is much worse. Yards per attempt is 6.3, and a passer rating which drops off by basically 20 at 87.4. So Mahomes in the Super Bowl is not great. Really not great. I think we could all understand. While Mahomes did have 3 touchdowns in last year's Super Bowl, as well as, he only had like 190 yards, if I'm not mistaken. He didn't have that many passing yards, and I think we all need to agree, Jalen Hurts was the better quarterback on the field at that given time in the Super Bowl. Now, this season, it's a different story. You probably say Mahomes was a little bit better when it's all said and done. But can Purdy outplay Mahomes just enough to win the Super Bowl? I'm saying yeah. I got 49ers winning 27-22. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, solidifies Mr. Relevancy and wins Super Bowl 58. Second-year player, wins the Super Bowl. One of, I believe, only 4 quarterbacks or 3 quarterbacks to win in their second year starting. I got Brock Purdy, and I've criticized Purdy. Or not criticized. Tried.
Criticize?
I was bringing some context to it because the voters said CMC was more valuable based on the voting. He had more second-place votes than Brock Purdy had second and third place combined.
We're talking MVP, but you criticized him a lot during the season when he had that 3-game stretch.
Yeah, 3-game stretch.
Down. You were very hard on him.
Because he was the reason they lost.
Okay, so
it's like 3 touchdowns to 11 turnovers.
I mean, look who he's going against. He's going against one of the greatest quarterbacks.
I understand. I fully understand.
One of the greatest quarterbacks who's out there to make his legacy, having 3 Super Bowl rings. Right?
Yeah.
He's going against the second-year quarterback who, for all of his career so far, has been called Mr. Irrelevant. So I am surprised you picked him. I'm very surprised, actually. I thought you would pick the
I don't
Chiefs.
feel good about it because picking against Mahomes is like picking against Brady. You don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But
I also think the Chiefs season this year is a lot like the Patriots season in 2018.
People are saying that it's exactly like that. Really
exactly
great
like
defense.
That.
The offense has dropped a little bit.
Yeah.
But when it hit the playoffs,
offense
took off.
Yeah.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. And let's do this experiment. Let's take the skill position. So let's just take the receivers. Swap them. So Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, Justin Watson are on the 49ers. Debo, Ayuk, Jennings are on the Kansas City Chiefs. You get to keep the tight end. So Kittle remains on the 49ers. Kelsey remains on the Chiefs. Chiefs by -13. Chiefs by minus 13, 14.
I don't think
Breaks the Baltimore Colts minus
no.
18.5.
No, I don't think so.
So if,
you know why
if just the
I say
receiver
that?
corps switch,
You know why I say that? Because the the Chiefs receivers in the playoffs have been very good, right? Rashee Rice has been really a standout player.
I'll give you that.
Very good. And Kelsey's played great too.
Kelsey has stepped up.
So you got those two guys. I think Scantling, what's his name?
Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Yeah,
he's played a little bit better too. He's been hanging on to the ball. So I think the Chiefs, while we criticize the receivers all season long, all the drops and the mistakes and the offsides when they could have won a game, and Tony is not going to be. Is he? I don't think he's even active. Right? They've given up on him.
Well, I don't think he's inactive, but yes, it's not looking good for his.
I think that. I don't think it's that big. I think it would affect the point spread if you swap those receivers, but I don't think it would be that much.
I want to talk about this when it comes to the 49ers. I want to solidify why I picked them, because you said you were shocked. So let's start with this one. So Steve Spags, defensive coordinator-wise, has been one of the best DCs in the league. He loves to blitz, and we saw what he did against Lamar Jackson. He blitzed him basically 44% of the time. Answer this question. Who's the number one quarterback against the blitz?
The number one quarterback against the blitz must be Brock Purdy.
It's Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is the best quarterback when it comes to handling the blitz. So the Ravens, they decided to do man defense in the second half against the Chiefs. Shut them down in the second half. Shut them down. But the Chiefs did just enough offensively, and they maintained the defensive prowess to solidify that game, so they're in the Super Bowl. What I also think will happen is Kyle Shanahan will not start the backup running back over his starter like Todd Monken did with Justice Hill and Gus Edwards, and not only that, abandon what they've been known for since Lamar Jackson got there and abandoning the run, and run it 6 times in a single game. That blew my mind why they just said, we're going to make Lamar Jackson, we're going to showcase the new Lamar Jackson where he throws it a bunch of times instead of sticking with what works and him running the football. So I don't think Kyle Shanahan is just going to abandon the run. I don't think he's going to start Elijah Mitchell over CMC for Lord knows what reason, and I guarantee you he's not going to run it 6 times in the entire game. And like we mentioned before, the 49ers skill position players, or just players overall, you list the top 10 on each team, I think there's more 49ers than there are Chiefs. The 49ers defensive front, you say the front 7, it's better than the Chiefs. Linebackers all across the board better than the Chiefs. Chris Jones, Nick Bosa, you could argue who wins there. You also have Eric Armstead, Dre Greenlaw. You got pieces. You talk about L'Jarius Sneed versus Charvarius Ward, 2 very good quarterbacks. You have Trent McDuffie, who had a phenomenal year this year. And how about this one? The Chiefs. And then this is a crazy number. The Chiefs and the 49ers. There's one number that is very important in this game, and it's the number 20. The Chiefs are 16-0 since 2022 when allowing below 20 points. The 49ers, since Purdy got there, are 20-0 when they score 20 points or more. So that magic number is 20 for both teams if they want to win this game. So I'm saying 49ers, if you get to 20, based on the numbers, they are undefeated when they hit the 20-point threshold since Purdy got there. So
that's excellent analysis, Nate. You've got a lot of good points there.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this, though.
Yeah.
What happens if the 49ers get behind in this game? Now, they've come back. They came back against the Lions, right? They came back against the Packers. They were a much better team than either of those teams, and the Lions blew it.
Correct.
Okay?
As well as
so
the Packers,
if they, in most games under Shanahan, when they get behind, they don't win. They lose.
Correct.
So what happens in this game if they get behind? And look at the Chiefs. Every first drive so far in the playoffs, I believe they've scored either a field goal or a touchdown, right?
I believe so.
So if they get the ball first, good chance they're gonna have the lead.
And that's why I think you got to take it. You got to control the game. You don't want to come out there and say, you know what? We're going to let the Chiefs determine this. And all of a sudden, Kelsey, 3-yard pass. Kelsey, 4-yard pass. Rashee Rice, 6-yard gain. Kelsey, 2-yard gain. Kelsey. Pacheco, 5-yard run. No, you would go out there and say CMC, Debo, Kittle, set the tempo, keep Mahomes off the field. If you could show up 8 minutes of clock on the first drive, that's massive. That's absolutely massive. So that's what I think the 49ers need to do. If you get the coin toss, you take that ball. You set the tempo for how this game is going to turn out to be. Let your defense stay rested.
I think winning,
if they get behind, I will be terrified.
I'd say winning the coin toss for the 49ers is a pretty important part of this game.
People say defer it. No. In this game, you have to send the tempo. Get on the board first. Put the pressure, because I do think the pressure is on the 49ers. 100%, because you're talking about a team who their quarterback has massive questions whether or not he's actually the true MVP of the team and the massive difference maker there, where once again the bettor said it was CMC. Regardless, your defense has been choking lately against the Lions. They couldn't stop the run in the first half. The Packers, they were getting picked apart throughout the entire game. It wasn't for a Purdy last-minute drive to seal the game for him. So the defense has had its major concerns. You want to get on offense, set the tempo, put up a touchdown, flip the pressure right back on the Chiefs and say, now you match us. You match what we did. If you score a field goal, we're going to go right back down there and score a touchdown. Go from a 7-point lead, you kick a field goal, that's a 4-point lead, we'll match it, we'll bring it back to up to 11. Set the tempo, get the lead, get this game going under your terms. That's what you have to do if you're the Niners. Don't defer the ball. If you defer and Mahomes goes down and scores the touchdown, I'm fearing blowout. I'm serious. I'm fearing blowout. Because if the Chiefs get on the run, and we see what the Chiefs offense did in that first drive against the Ravens, where Kelsey was just 9 for 9 to Kelsey, I believe. He caught all of his 11 targets, by the way. If they get on some sort of a connection, I'm scared. I'm going to be real. But I just think that this defense will step up. I think I think CMC will set the tempo. I think, there's a chance that, and I bet on it, Debo has a rushing and a receiving touchdown in this game. I think the 49ers are going to win. Like I said, 27-22. And let's bring up the graph again. You have 24-21. Super Bowl 58. I'm glad we disagree. I
makes it more interesting for us.
Just for the sake of the show, I probably should have picked the Chiefs because, like you said, I was not the nicest of people to Brock Purdy. But I just think that if we're talking about talent versus talent, the 49ers are much more talented.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to see the 49ers win, actually, but I just think that the Chiefs, just based on watching them and in these playoffs, they're really on a mission. They have the heart and soul of a champion, and they won it last year, and they're going to do everything they can to repeat.
They'll be the first
going up against a team that's less experience in the big game, particularly at quarterback, where it means the most. Brock Purdy, never been in a Super Bowl, only a second-year player.
Yeah. And we saw that against the Ravens, where we saw the Chiefs were much more experienced than the Ravens were at that moment in time in the conference championship game. They controlled everything in that game. So maybe the experience kicks in, but I just think if Purdy and CMC and Debo get on this roll, it takes a load off the defense to say, okay, we put up points. If you give up a touchdown, it goes right back to a 0-0 ball game. We're back on offense. We could then go and score again. It takes a little bit of the load off the defense. So they're not out there and they start getting cooked by Pacheco or cooked by Kelsey, So they're not demoralized after, 5 snaps. You get out there, you score a touchdown on the first drive, takes a load off the defense. So if I'm Kyle Shanahan, and late, Kyle Shanahan's had some demons in the Super Bowl. Play clock, play calling late in the game. He's had a little bit of, demons when it comes to that. I think the 49ers do get the win, though. I do. Purdy hoists the Super Bowl. Does that make him Brady, Manning, Montana, Steve Young? No. Does it make it? Does it?
Makes him Mr. Relevant. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he can't be called Mr. Irrelevant anymore, unless you want to talk about where he was drafted. But no, this basically all this really does is say, Brock Purdy, you exceeded expectations and you completed a phenomenal season. That puts him at one of maybe the greatest stories in the NFL. Last pick in the draft, winning a Super Bowl in your second year, could have made the Super Bowl in your rookie year, and you only played half the season at that point.
It gives there's somewhat of a comparison to Tom Brady.
A little bit.
Right.
Jimmy G goes down. Yeah. You come in, you do a lot. Although it was Trey Lance goes down, then Jimmy G comes in, then Jimmy G goes down, then you come in and sort of solidify the job.
But it's his second year, and he's in the Super Bowl.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.